Hey guys, my name is Mike or Kubera, and I wanted to do an update video with Spectre because Spectre was very successful with their pre-ICO, and the previous video didn't do it really justice. I mean, I admit I was at fault. I should have edited it a little bit better, but also there's always some difficulties whenever recording through Skype. Anyways, Spectre is one of those companies that is paying me in the tokens, so I have a stake in it. And of course, there's bias behind that, so always make sure you do your research and look at who you are observing. If you don't like sponsored videos, well, then feel free to check out the next video. But as I said before, I did have this little period where I was just like, oh, well, I'm thinking about getting greedy and selling out, but now I need to only work with companies that I truly do believe in. And of course, there's multiple good companies and you never know exactly what's going on. Maybe I failed at my research. That's another thing you have to observe, because sometimes these crypto YouTubers don't do enough research and you're not able to fully trust them. So what you should do is, for any sponsored video, any video, make sure to look at multiple sources. But without further ado, I hope this is an improvement from the last video. The reason we're doing this is that they did raise over $6 million and their pre-ICO is transitioning into the normal ICO now. As mentioned a couple times in the interview, which is a little bit long, but it has a lot of good information from it. I was also learning from the CEO here, because after we did the interview, he was able to help me out and just kind of show me that reputation is important. And yeah, selling out's not the best thing. And you know, just what the future of 2018 may look like, where ICOs will be falling for some time due to a lot of scam ICOs, but the good ICOs, the good companies, will get their funds. They will be able to proceed with their projects, and just maybe they might have a chance at changing the world. Anyways, let's get into it. But to be quite honest, where do you see the future? Because blockchain's here to stay, but do you think Bitcoin's in a bubble? Do you think it's just raising way too quickly right now?
Yeah, so look, I have a slightly contrarian view on this. So everyone loves Bitcoin, and I think the sheer size and volume of the market coming into Bitcoin right now is going to make Bitcoin move up. So just to be completely clear, you don't want to be short now, but you want to be short soon, and that's really important. Mark my words, you heard it here first today. Bitcoin may hit 8,000, it may scrape 9. It's going to meet a very big resistance at 10. Okay, and I genuinely believe that at 10, you look at all the technical indicators that you're already starting to see signs of exhaustion, right? If you're a technical analysis, you'll see that. You will then start to see the ability, you'll start to see a lot of people that got in at 6, at 5, saying, okay, I've made my 100%, right? 100%. You're going to get a lot of sheep investors, the mom and pop investors, selling, and I think we'll get a good profit taking. Bitcoin could go back to 4,000, right? 4, 5, maybe even 3. You know, I know this sounds crazy right now, but it could. And mind you, that's when the big institutions will come in, because the institutions, the big hedge funds, the JP Morgans, they haven't really ridden this wave. Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan has been saying, you know, Bitcoin's a scam. That means he hasn't actually gotten in. He wants to get the price down. So I think this recent leg up has been driven by your mom and pops. You know, Cliff High said there are 3 innovation cycles: the innovators, the early adopters, and then the mainstream. With Bitcoin, we're currently at the early adopters, and we're starting to move towards the mainstream. So his forecast for Bitcoin, I think next March, is something like 10,000 plus or 15,000 plus. We get there, but I'm telling you, we are going to get a correction, a sell-off, and it's probably going to be driven by scalability issues, a failed hard fork. This always happens, right? Every time, when people like us, everybody around you saying this is going up, this is going up, that's the time to be fearful, because that's when you get the big shocks.
Right. I mean, it's going up way too quickly, and everybody's saying, oh, it's going to be $100,000. So if you're surrounded by these people, where it's like, that's all you hear. And then everybody who's like, oh no, it's going to crash. Well, you immediately tune them out. And it's just like, no, I see only one way, and it's going all the way to the top. Sure, it'll keep going up for a little bit, but then there needs to be a correction. They're just, people aren't that greedy. Not everyone is that greedy where it's like, I made 100%. That's it. That's all I care about. And then it's like you're also afraid of the other guy, because even if you are greedy, well, that's cool, but how greedy that person, which you don't know, maybe he doesn't care. It's like it's crazy. $4,000 though.
Yeah, if you're buying Bitcoin now, the view I would take is basically take a multi-year view, right? So if you have $2,000 lying around or $5,000, you can buy some now and say, look, okay, even if it halves, my $2,000 becomes $1,000, right? I'm not going to open this pot of money for another 5 years or 10 years. And then you're in for a very big surprise. I am very bullish on cryptocurrencies in the future. So I think if you're willing to take a 5-year view, so you're not, I take it you're 20 or however old you are, 17 or 18, I don't know your age. If you're happy to say that, okay, at 25, 26, 27, I'm going to open this, then your $2,000 may be worth 200K, right? 300K or whatever it is. Or if you put in 10K today, you could be sitting on $1 million. That's totally possible. Short-term trading this, you're right. This is just crazy hype, in my opinion, at this moment. And even if you get in now, let's say you got in with $10,000 and Bitcoin went to 10K or 12K, did you really make that much money? Right? Not that much, right? If you got in with 10K at a price of 7 and it goes to 12, do you really make that much money? No, you make $5,000, $6,000, right? You could make that much with one AMA. So it's not the time to buy Bitcoin, if you ask me. I think unless you're taking a 5-year view.
Right. But there's still a lot of people out there, new markets where entire countries, they heard about it, but they don't know what it is. They're just going into it over the next couple of years, and that's where, the real money is, the new markets.
I agree. The new markets are, of course, the red herring, so to put it, or the optionality. That could be really something that takes it to the next level. That's what Cliff was saying as well. Cliff was saying, I think 10 million people are using Bitcoin around the world, if I understood correctly. He says in the next 3 years he can see that figure going to 100 million. So that's ridiculous, right? But anyway, yeah.
I'm curious. So, since with ICOs, I've actually never asked this. Since you're the CEO, what are you planning to do with the Ethereum? Are you holding on to it? Are you selling parts of it? Are you converting it into Bitcoin? What's going on with that?
With the Ethereum, you mean once we've actually finished the sale? Okay, that's a very good question. So you have to be prudent because all these currencies have gone up a lot. So if you're planning a business budget, which has fiat costs, right? Paying developers and paying, a good portion of this should be sitting in fiat. Not all, maybe sort of 50% plus. You see what I mean?
Right.
You also want to participate in this giant cryptocurrency trend. So some ICOs I've heard, shockingly, they've raised 100 million and they've sold 80 million into fiat. That's what's kept the price of Ethereum down, right? With us, we're not doing that. But you need to have a rainy day scenario, right? You have to say, okay, there are fiat currencies. They've been around for hundreds of years. Your business plan is predicated on stability. And so 3 to 4 years, you need enough fiat to see your business through, to deliver all your roadmaps. So that's the approach we're basically taking. Let me put it this way: the crypto anarchists will tell you, well, why don't you put 90% in Ether, right? In the money you raise, if you believe so much in the blockchain. It has nothing to do with that. If there's a small correction, if there's a problem in the blockchain and Ethereum drops to 100 overnight, our budget has been killed by 70%, right? Can't plan a business on that. And yeah, it could go up by 100%, but losing 70% is worse than gaining 100%, right?
Right.
And you have to be always more risk averse. But anyway.
How do you think, like if you're selling $100 million of Ethereum, how do you think they're able to sell that much that quickly and safely?
Yeah, so this is a great question. The data point we received from a very prominent investment bank that has a desk that helps ICOs liquidate, I can't mention names, they can do about 10 million a day, 10 to 15 million a day, and that's one bank, right? So hypothetically, if you have an ICO, we're nowhere near that, but if there's an ICO that has raised 100 million, within 6 to 7 days, that bank will take your mandate and liquidate Ethereum for you. If you look at Ethereum's daily traded volumes, they are around 700 million a day, globally, right? So it's not a Mickey Mouse transaction currency anymore. It's becoming a very real store of value, and so that is, in my opinion, that's how it's done effectively.
Okay, gotcha. I don't know. It's crazy to think about just a company coming in with $5 million Ethereum, swapping it, the fees, and it's difficult for the average person just to swap $5,000 worth sometimes. It's
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Coinbase never unbanned me. I never even got a response. Never. Just nothing. Okay.
We have for what it's worth, we were with Coinbase. All respect to them. We don't know how they work, but it took us 1 month to even open an account. At that time, we'd just gone to Kraken. It was so much. Do you see what I mean? Like there was so much red tape. So I don't know if they just have more KYC or something. Maybe it's something internal, but I see where you're coming from on that.
I mean, yeah, probably it's because they grew way too quickly and there's just way too much going on that they don't care about these small requests.
That could be. That could be. There's, we got a figure from Coinbase in one of the Telegram channels I was in. I don't know if this is accurate, but someone was saying they have 10 million accounts there. 10 million accounts. So you can imagine, if that's accurate, I don't know if it's accurate, but can you imagine that, we're just one of 10 million. So that probably has to do something with that.
Right. And then, of course, the whales matter way more than a guy who's like, oh, I have $2,000 worth. It's like, whatever. They have to prioritize. So the reason we're having this interview today, folks, is due to a little bit of an update with Spectre. So it's still in the pre-ICO phase, and that's going on for the next day and a half. And currently there's almost 19,000 Ethereum contribution. So where would you place that right now? How excited are you?
We're excited. Look, the market has definitely turned down against ICOs. You're seeing all these post-ICO Ether Delta dumps, as they call it, the dump effect and all of that, and even naming these effects. And obviously you have Bitcoin, which is driving up the prices, so that's the trade right now. And so it depends, is it an opportune time to have done this ICO? You can never predict. We're very happy about the Ethereum price. That's not tanked. It's pretty robust. It has underperformed Bitcoin in the last 6 to 8 months. But the reason behind that, of course, is other ICOs are converting their raised Ethereum to fiat. So that's a depressive factor on price. We're very happy. We raised 5.7, I think, 5.8 million. We got 2 more days to go at a 33% bonus for pre-sale investors. Then it's lights out. For the next month, we're basically going heavy in Asia, in Korea, and other markets where it's still legal to do it, Russia as well, and parts of South America, where we've made some strong inroads. So we are comfortable, we're confident that if nothing drastic changes in the market to the downside, we can possibly hit our internal target of 7 million, which is just 1.3 million away, and possibly even 10 million. And that would be very good because that gives us a small war chest to deliver our roadmap in March on time.
So you said that, well, of course, Bitcoin's been rising and Ethereum's had plenty of ICOs that have been selling off quite a lot, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. But over the past 2 weeks, since our last video, what have been the main negative effects of just that's causing some of these ICOs to fail or not reach their targets?
Okay, great question. So we think that the one big issue is the short-term investors, and rightfully so. The short-term investors that are investing in these ICOs don't like to see the value of their investment drop by 20-30% the next day out for the ICO. It's a scary prospect, right? I mean, if you're an investor, your average sort of medium income earner, and you're earning maybe $30,000-$40,000 a year, $50,000 a year, you invest $2,000, $3,000, and you're hoping you're investing in the next Google, right? And so the management team has sold you a narrative for over 1 or 2 months. You've got hyped up, and suddenly you see your investment half. That scares you. Why is this happening? So I have a message. I have a message for both these investors and also the management teams. Firstly, it's a structure of the ICO. The pre-sale, pre-rounds, they need to be structured fairly. Okay, if they are purely structured for the quick gain, the time value opportunity of getting quick cash in for the management team without naming ICOs, a lot of ICOs have done that, that's going to hurt your share price, your token price after the ICO is done, because immediately all those bonuses you dumped, you gave like 100% bonuses, 80% bonuses, up and above what you were offering the mom and pop investors, those investors, the big buyers groups and VCs, they're just going to take that excess inventory and dump it, right? Because for them it's free money. And that dump causes a big problem on these exchanges a big problem for the smaller investors. So it's the problem. It's the way that the sales are structured. If you look at our sale, we actually had to say no to, true fact, 7 million in funding, 7.5. So today we'd be at close to 13 million, right? So we're at 6 because these buyers groups, and rightfully for them. I mean, anywhere outside the ICO world, if you're getting a big investment, the investor expects a bit of a discount, right? This is normal. This is how business works. So we had to tell them no. We said we have to give you the same treatment, and that obviously, turns off certain buyers groups and all that. So we have said no to that. So for us, the effect most likely is going to be less pronounced, right? Because we simply don't have a big difference in investor bonuses. It's every investor that invested in the pre-sale has a 33% bonus at this moment. Simple. So structuring the ICO is important, and that's why you're getting the sell-off. The second reason, of course, is you've had a few incidences without getting too much into the naming names and naming and shaming. There are some obvious examples of scams, ICOs that people raise a lot of money, 100 million, 200 million, and now you have potentially people fighting over that pot of money, and you have legalities and all this, and they may not be scams. They might actually be really good technology companies, but then when you have so much, so egregiously large perverse amounts involved, you always get moral hazard, right? Moral hazard creeps in. Moral hazard doesn't creep in at 5 million, right? It just doesn't. It's a small sum. So you have some of these ICOs that have ICO'd in the last 6 months, and they have overfunded. So you're seeing their share prices falling. There's exhaustion in the valuation, and also you have lack of delivery. I think lack of delivery is a big issue with ICOs. Cliff High himself has said 80% of ICOs he forecasts would fail. And that's actually a very accurate figure, because in a more established world, if you want to call it, 75% of startups fail. So why would 80% of ICOs fail where you have less filtration, right? It's easier to raise large buckets of money. You don't have these VC gatekeepers who have dominion over capital raised. So basically, you're probably going to get that failure rate, and you're starting to see that come through, and that's unnerving investors. Investors are saying, okay, I've invested in 5 ICOs, my entire ICO portfolio is down, right, by 30-40%. What the invested in? So these management teams need to deliver on their milestones, and I think a lot of them are just sitting around twiddling their thumbs. Not all. Some have done a fantastic job, right? The final point I wanted to make on that, sorry to rant on, but it would be a message of comfort to the investors right now that have invested in ICOs, and they're kind of wondering why are they down 30-40%. These are the reasons that I've told you. That's why your ICO right now is suffering. However, if you look at Google, which is I think at $900 now per share, 900 or 1,000. If you take a look at Facebook, which I think was at $90 a share or 80 or something, both of these are examples of great investments. Google more than Facebook, I would say. Now Google IPO'd. It had its initial public offering in 2004, May or August, I can't remember, but it was a long time ago, 13 years ago. Google IPO'd at a price of around 70 to 80. Don't quote me on this, but roughly speaking, 70 to 80 dollars. And over the next 2-3 months, the price fell to $50. Facebook IPO'd at around, I think it was 39 bucks or something, or 40 bucks. And a few months later, it had halved. The share price had fallen by a half. Okay. Same thing is happening here. Do you see? We are down by the same magnitudes in percentage terms, right?
Right.
If you step back and you look at what Google has delivered for shareholders over the past 13 years, it's phenomenal. You don't even see that little dip. So my message to ICO investors would be, you invested in a company because you believe in its team. Now, I don't know if that team is a scam. I don't know which company you invested in. But if you believe in the team and you believe in the idea, it actually makes sense. It is too soon to look at your 20-30% and say, oh, I'm fire selling, something is wrong. If nothing has changed in the actual fundamentals, right, and it's fundamentals that ultimately drive shareholder value, the price of your token, not FUD, then I would stick on to your guns. That's what I would do. This isn't investment advice, but if you take a 5-year view, in my opinion, given how much money is coming into the sector we were discussing, some of these could really be unicorns. Some of these could have fantastic performance. And just from a valuation perspective, I looked at some ICOs that have raised 20, 30 million, and they're trading at 0.3 times book, right? What I mean by book, I mean their cash value. They're trading well below that. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe their management team is just twiddling their thumbs. But give some of these management teams the time to deliver the milestones, and you may be pleasantly surprised.
Okay. Gotcha. So, yeah, that's interesting. I was thinking about Facebook there for a second because I was looking into that the other day, how it was formed with the VC rounds, how one of the founders, of course, had a dispute because his 33% was diluted. And so, of course, there's the difference between those Silicon Valley companies because they also had enough money from the very beginning. They didn't care whether their IPO kind of went down, but they were able to power through that. So it's like, oh, okay, a rough month, a rough couple of months. So with ICOs, do you think whenever companies have good pre-ICOs, they're kind of stable and they don't really care what's going to happen for the next month? Or do you think it's still kind of risky at that point?
I think it's a good point. So obviously you have price risk, right? So if you've raised all this money, what happens to the price of Ethereum? You worry, right? That keeps you awake at night. You don't want the price of Ethereum to tank and go to 50. Probably won't happen, but that's one worry. And the second worry, of course, is if your pre-sale has gone well, that's good. That's a good head start. But if it's well below what you've planned for your budget, like let's say you need 15 million, right? We only need 7, but if you need 15, you're in trouble. I would be very stressed if I needed 15 to deliver my project, and I've only raised 6. That would be a big problem right now, right? Because in these markets, every million is tough to come by, realistically put. So yeah, you're 100% right to bring that up. You need to worry, which is why it's important to also build your business, taking the view that you would only need 5 million, which is, by the way, a pretty big Series A round. You probably heard about Series A and Series B.
Right.
In your traditional VC community, Mark Zuckerberg, he received, I think his Series A, if you want to call it Series A, was 500K, right? It was a small investment by Peter Thiel into Facebook back then, back in 2004, I think it was, or 2005.
Yeah.
Down in Menlo Park or Palo Alto, wherever that was. So, and you see what he built out of that. So 5 million is a lot of money. Plan your business in a conservative manner, and then any surplus funds you raise in your main sale, you can reinvest back or keep as a buffer and all of that.
What would you do if, for example, so you said 15 million and you got 6 million, you'd be scared, but your goal is 7 million. What if you only had, because right now looking at it, it's 5.7 pretty much. What if you had only $2 million right now? What would your mindset be? And what would you do?
What we do, so look, the good news is that we had a budget for this ICO, the marketing budget, and we only exhausted half of it. So with half, we've raised 5.7 or so. We have the other half remaining, because this is how we always operate, right? We always assume that we're going to up. And when you assume that, you're more paranoid. And so we would effectively expend this budget on the main sale and try and bridge that gap. If we only had 2 million now, I would say there's structurally something wrong in our communication, our message, something about our product. So we would need to change that and then deploy these surplus funds or these additional funds that were left over, not the 2 million raised, but the bit that wasn't spent during the marketing, and effectively try and bridge that gap. I would say maybe raise another 2 or 3 million. Normally what happens is in a pre-sale, if you do good, you can probably raise what you did in your pre-sale in a main sale, and then some. You've had some fantastic instances like Pillar, which raised I think 6 million in the pre-sale, but for the main sale they just hit a home run. They ended up raising 21 million, right? So it's a multiple of almost 3 or 2.5. We don't think we're going to be able to replicate that in these markets. But in answer to your question, 2 million, yeah, that would be a bit of a dire situation. Would not be happy with that. We would basically probably be then able to pull out at best 5 from the whole ICO.
What would you do with 5? Would you have to remove some people from the company, or how would that look?
No. Very good question. So effectively what would happen is the liquidity pool wouldn't be 2 million big, it would be 1 million big. That's the bit that you trade against, effectively. So 1 million would go there. And then we would have 4 million, and that would mean is that we would have to reduce our budget for marketing a little bit. So basically we're operating on the cheap, if if you know what I mean, right?
Right.
We would still, however, give ourselves the 3.5 to 4 year runway that we have. We don't want to compress that because that creates unnecessary stress on the team. It can result in fatal mistakes with the product security. So we would need to never compromise on security, never compromise on a proper strategy, and delivering that. So the time is required. It just means that, yeah, obviously people get paid a bit less, and more importantly, it just means that we spend less on marketing and stuff, which is not good. So we have in our financial model, we have 3 scenarios. We have the bear case scenario, which is we have the balance case, and we have the bull case. With sort of a 3 to 5 million raise, we're probably tracking close to the bear case, somewhere in the middle. And then with 7 million, 10 million, we can hit our balance.
Just a quick thing. You might notice that I'm typing, but that's because I'm doing the timestamps.
Right.
We're making it kid friendly, which it's a silly thing, but just.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I'll go back and bleep them out or just remove it, but it's cool. Okay. So yeah, it's a silly thing, but you know, YouTube and ads and all that, whatever. It's not so much even the ads. It's I'm afraid of optimization because with cryptos you have good SEO, good ranking for the videos. It's important. But with this, so you have a good marketing budget, and of course this is part of the marketing budget. And just by going on Bitcoin Talk the other day, I saw some posts and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, there's a little Spectre logo right there. I kind of clicked through it and I was going through. What would, over the past couple of weeks, what was the best investment in marketing in the budget, and what are you going to keep doing?
Very good question. So we're tracking all of our marketing channels, technically in terms of yield, how much money we've invested, and how much ROI that's driven. What we saw in terms of ROI, Google PPC is pretty good. Google pay-per-click actually works. ROI range 3 to 5 times roughly, which is not bad. Nothing beats word of mouth. The Telegram room that we have is a bit of a powerhouse, I would say. So that's important, right? So we have almost 4,000 people in there, and the network effects of that can't compute them. The ROI there is 40, 50 times because you don't spend that much money getting that. I would say, to my surprise, Cointelegraph was good. So Cointelegraph is a good place to put out press releases. They're a bit expensive in our view. You're paying $2,000-$3,000, but it's worth it. It gets the message out, and we saw a lot of traffic coming from there.
$2,000-$3,000 per post, or how's that look?
Per press release, yeah, per post. So yeah, it's a bit pricey, but you know everything is pricey in this world because you have a lot of ICO companies competing for room. But they have a good distribution. I would also say CoinMarketCap was really good. CoinMarketCap was fantastic ROI. It was actually a bit better than Cointelegraph by 2 turns, by 1 or 2 turns, so 7 times ROI. We have a whole graph, and this is something I'm going to publish to help ICOs that are looking to ICO, right, in the future. What are the different ROI streams? Maybe I can give that to you and you can publish it. But yeah, so those are the kind of the good channels. I think YouTube has definitely helped. It's difficult to quantify it because most of the YouTubers don't actually have the referral links, and then you know the people may come to the site, but then they may go to Telegram, so we can't really track it. But it's very important to have a good YouTube strategy in place.
Well, all of it together kind of mixes in, and especially with YouTube, it's not so much, as you said, it's not so much about getting a sale right there. It's just that somebody clicks the link, and it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, then they'll explore a little bit. They'll maybe ask some questions. They'll come back to it 2 weeks later, and it's like, oh, they see another YouTuber and another and another. Oh, okay, fine, you sold me. So with CoinMarketCap, how much was that? Because I think last time I checked, it was like $15 per impression or something like that, and they recommend 200,000 impressions, and it's like you need a minimum of $10,000 or something.
Yeah, CoinMarketCap is expensive because they obviously are very, very popular. I mean, I keep refreshing on CoinMarketCap every hour just to check the Ethereum price, right? And people use it for different things. So such a simple and beautiful website, and so obviously there you get a lot of mind share, right? People just look immediately at the top or to the right. Your figures sound roughly correct. That's, we didn't get any special deals or anything, so that's roughly what we spent. It was expensive. That hurt us. But the good thing is the ROI was there as well. I can tell you in terms of ROI, we were somewhere in the range of 5 to 7 times, right? Which is not bad, which is pretty good. It's nowhere near the network effects you get from the Telegram group growing, or sometimes one YouTuber giving a big. So, for example, I don't know if you heard about the Cliff High incident.
With Spectre?
With Spectre, yeah. So what happened was in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Cliff had come across our project, and he had brought up some legitimate concerns about the fact that our liquidity pool could get hacked by robots because there's a lot of money in it, and so he brought them up. And what happened was kind of a back and forth, but not directly. We weren't actually directly communicating. We were communicating through different YouTubers, so that was quite interesting. And then eventually, on the data for pre-sale, I woke up the morning and it said that Cliff High has raised security concerns. So I was like, oh wow, on the day of our pre-sale. So I was like, okay, let's do an AMA. I requested that, and he was very kind to get us on. And then we had this 1.5 hour discussion, which was amazing because it's very difficult to get Cliff's time, and he's so instrumental in the cryptocurrency sector. He's an agent of change, right? So it was very humbling to be on there. And going back to what we were asking, so something like that is very important for an ICO because it gets validation as well, right? That's really important. And the ROI effects of that are kind of intangible. We haven't been tracking that. That's not even our concern. The main reason was to actually have an open discussion with someone who really understands the space. But in general, I would say YouTube ROIs are good. It gets it's important for the management team to come out and actually show their faces, as opposed to be hidden behind some sort of laptop screens and just behind Telegram channels. So I would say, but look, very impressed with CoinMarketCap and Cointelegraph, and Google PPC as well. Personally, I'm not such a big fan of the PPC thing, but my tech team and marketing team tell me that it works. So.
Have you done any Facebook PPC?
So good question. We haven't yet. We are going to do it for the main sale. Basically, we want someone who is very experienced in Facebook PPC. Do you know what I mean? Not just someone who signs up and does the geo-targeting and then spends a bunch of money. We want to do it smart. We've teamed up with a Russian partner to do the Yandex, which is similar to, I think, to Google, and then the Facebook version of in Russia is called VKontakte.
Right.
We're running something there, but Facebook we haven't done yet.
Okay. I like whenever I log into Facebook. It's not often, but I always get hit. And same with Instagram, because Instagram is, of course, connected with it. It's like, oh, the ads are so silly because some of them are just straight up like, this is how much tokens we've sold. Buy now. Immediately. It's like, I don't even know what's going on. Don't know who they are. Don't really care because I'm not going to invest in it because it's right there. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. But somebody who's new to Instagram or Facebook and they don't go on YouTube, they don't go on Bitcoin Talk, they don't even know what cryptocurrency is. They see something like, boom, $5 million. It's like, what? They're curious. So you still have half of your marketing budget left, and that's probably good positioning because now transitioning into the normal ICO, that's when you're going to release all the funds straight into it.
Exactly, and we also understand any mistakes we made, any inefficient moves we make. Now we understand how we can rectify that and kind of bring that over to the main sale and do that with more efficiency. So, yeah, absolutely. We still have half the funds. The cost of doing an ICO, let me give you a bit of a benchmark. Last year, this time an ICO would cost $20,000 to $30,000, $40,000. But also last year, this time, the average raise was $1 to $2 million. You had this crazy frenzy in Q1, Q2, Q3 of this year, where the costs of your typical ICO have gone from 30, 40K to almost 400K to 400K, right? So again, I'm saying if you want to have a good ICO, if you want to have an ICO where you build a community, where you hit your targets, without sacrificing and selling out your soul, right? Because a lot of management teams have done that as well, giving crazy discounts to certain investors. But you need to be prepared to spend at least, I would say, 200K. And that's the reality. The main reason is because you're not going to be able to compete with the management teams that have the money on CoinMarketCap app, and all these places, right? You're going to basically be forced to be advertising on lower ranking Alexa websites with low conversion. And there's many out there. There's a lot of people that will scam you and come up to you and say, we're the regional leader in this country, and we charge $500 per month. And you'd be like, well, what's wrong with the picture here, right? When CoinMarketCap is charging $3,000 a day, or whatever their charge is.
Huh. 200,000 for a minimum. And what would that mainly go into? Marketing or the security, or what are the costs of that?
Very good question. So the bulk is marketing, no doubt. There is I would say a legal charge. You have to be smart about your legal team, because there's a lot of I would say, what's the right word I'm looking for? Scavengers, you know, dumpster lawyers running around wanting to capitalize on this hype, and they will basically say, okay, well, I'm taking 50 to 100K retainer, 50 to 100K cash, and then give me another 2 or 3% tokens. You don't have to do that. Especially these old law firms that have been around for hundreds of years, they're looking into this space. They don't understand blockchain. Be very careful of them. They will charge you an arm and a leg. For good legal advice, you will need to spend a good 30 to 50K cash, and then some in tokens. Okay, roughly. Then you will need to spend another 30K to 40K on development of your smart contract, and your auditor. Your contract needs to be audited as well. Ideally, 2 layers of audits, right? And then you need to spend the rest on marketing, effectively, right? That's basically what you're looking at. So at least 100K in marketing. Below that, it depends what you're trying to raise. If you're trying to raise a 1 or 2 million, 1 million ICO, then you can do it with less. But if you're trying to raise 5 to 10 million plus, you will need at least 200K.
Right. And with the lawyer, that's interesting. So I was actually talking with one the other day, and I was surprised because about ICOs, and she said something about miners, which during the context of our conversation just didn't make sense at all. I was like, but there's no need for miners in this case. And I just saw a list of the questions that were there, and I was like, well, half of these don't apply. And that just gave me a picture that this lawyer probably, she has no clue what is going on with blockchain. She probably read a couple of blog posts, and there we go. And that's fine. That's fine, because that's not her specialty. But how do you find a legal team? For example, with Spectre's legal team, how do you go about that?
That's such a great question. I mean, it's so on point, because we had troubles. 2 or 3 months ago, we spent a month trying to find lawyers that understood what the hell the blockchain is. What's the difference between your blockchain company and an altcoin, right? I mean, the difference between the blockchains. What is the difference between a cryptocurrency? And I noticed you put the timestamp there. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
We were very frustrated, because we went to your typical big law firms, the big 3, the big 4, and we said, look, we want to get the best legal advice. These guys don't know what's going on. They do not understand. And they'll be like, the first thing a big law firm will tell you is, you should do it. Don't do the ICO. It's like, what? What are you trying to, like? They're like, no, you need to move slowly, sit down and, yeah, okay, they're trying to protect you, but the commerciality is just completely out of the picture. Now, there are online tech law firms that are far better at this. They're far on the ball. They've been with the blockchain 3-4 years. Those are the ones you should go to. They're traditionally the much smaller ones. The much smaller ones that don't have the big names. We can give you names. I can send you some names. We finally zeroed in on a law firm that's based in the U.S. It's based in Los Angeles. They work with offshore law firms as well. They've helped us structure our ICO company, which is based in the British Virgin Islands. They've helped us create the banking structure, the regulatory structure, the license for the broker-dealer that we need to run Spectre. Fantastic, but it takes time to reach these people, because they're not advertising they don't have the big names. You get there, it takes about a month. Definitely do your due diligence, spend time on getting the right law firm, because you're going to need really good legal advice, right? And we can help you there.
With the legal advice, why a month? That's getting all the contracts, getting the white papers, or what goes into that?
Yes, very true. So first, obviously, the scope. How is I mean, if you have a lawyer who keeps telling you there's no, if they're telling you about mining and you're not even a mining ICO, you should dump that lawyer immediately. Right. They don't know what's going on. But if you have a lawyer that understands what you do, Then obviously going through the white papers, the forecast, the material, getting your legitimizing your website, getting the right disclaimers. That's part of the scope. Opening your ICO company, you can't just do the ICO from where you're based normally. You should do it from a jurisdiction that's more ICO friendly. Creating the bank accounts for that, getting you the necessary licenses if you're on the investment dealing side. Structuring the token, that's really important. What is your token? Is it a security? If it's a security, which elements of the Howey test does it breach? If it's not a security, how is it a utility? Structuring the token so that you're safe from a regulatory standpoint. And then of course, the actual terms and conditions of the sale, the actual terms and conditions that all investors will agree to before contributing. Getting that right is very important. You can't just copy paste from Spectre's website, right? I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. So get that right, and of course the KYC, the post-sale KYC is very important as well. So the lawyer will help you with that. A good lawyer should help you with that. Spend your time on that, and also be very, very careful about which marketing firm you choose. Right. So that is a big, big, big important thing, because you can take 100K and dump it in the toilet.
Right.
And you don't do that, right? So if you're not sure, then go for Cointelegraph, CoinMarketCap, BBC. You won't get the network effects that we got in Telegram and stuff, but you'll get good ROI. But some marketing firms, don't let them control your budget. Be very careful with that.
Did Spectre get a marketing firm, or?
Yes, we had a marketing firm. We had a community management marketing firm. We are now teaming up with 2 marketing partners, one in Korea, which we're going to announce soon, and one in Russia. And so you should do it regionally, right? Obviously, you want to start slow first, so we started only with one, and then we realized their potential is to a certain degree limited, and then obviously now we're looking in other places. But one thing which is very important that I cannot stress is community management. So Bitcoin Talk, thread management, Reddit Talk, thread management, Telegram group management. The team that we have teamed up with is, in my opinion, best in class. They are phenomenally professional. We were so lucky to find them. The company is called Vindyne, actually.
What is it?
Vindyne, V-I-N-D-Y-N-E. They are really, I know it's a bit of a weird name, I can send it to you, really, really professional in their conduct, and they have immense experience on community management. I can't stress enough how important it is to get a good community manager, because these people, when you're asleep, they will be handling all these questions, right? And they're so professional, they're so quick, and the very important thing is they learn. They aren't just, oh, are you just a mining company? You know, and 6 weeks in, you're like, well, not a mining company. You probably want to do the timestamp. So.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so this is a company that learns about your ICO, the nitty-gritty, right? So every time you put out a press release, anytime they actually go through it, they learn it, and they understand your product, and they can critically answer questions, which I love, right? It's not just someone who's regurgitating; they actually put thought behind it. So it's probably as important as getting a good lawyer in the ICO space. And then the final bit, which I said would be about 30-40K, is to make sure you have a smart contract engineer, not just a guy who's self-proclaimed on LinkedIn. You know, I'm a blockchain consultant and I do Solidity. There are too many people that claim they can code in Solidity. There's very few people that have good attention to detail that will actually create flawless contracts. So get those on your side as well, and we can help as well with that.
I'm writing down here Solidity. What does that mean?
Solidity is just the program that allows you to code smart contracts. It's kind of the programming language for Ethereum. It's one of a few, so that's kind of what they're writing the smart contracts in.
And how'd Spectre find its smart contract developer?
Good question. So we basically went to Upwork.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Upwork. Yeah. But just to be clear, we didn't find our smart contract developer. We found all the ones that we didn't end up using. So we actually bumped into this person on LinkedIn. He came up because one of the people that I connected with on Upwork, there was a common connection with him, so he showed up. In my opinion, he's one of the most professional smart contract developers out there. We have 2 actually, both are good. This one specifically has worked with a very high-profile ICO. and he's ex-Morgan Stanley. He's based in London as well. Fantastic, one of the best. Now the thing is that obviously, even if he's good, you need to get his work audited as well, because even the best can make mistakes. And that's why we had 2 layers of audit. So you need the good person being audited and that person being audited as well, then you're okay.
Okay, gotcha. With what's everything going now with the pre-ICO transitioning into the normal ICO, of course you need marketing. I'm sure you still need your lawyer every now and then for certain things. What other costs are going into it for the next couple running weeks, other than employees?
Other than employees, yeah. So those would be the main costs. You're right. The ongoing legal. The good thing is there we have a fixed payment already made, so the lawyer is very accommodative. So that's good. We don't have to keep paying them for calls. Marketing is of course the big bit. The technical side not so much anymore because the smart contracts are complete. The ones for the ICO. I would say that's it. That's kind of the main thing. Obviously, the kind of usual YouTuber bounty, part ETH, part token payments and all of that. That's part of the thing, but there's no other cost at the moment. There is the market, the nature of marketing is changing. Everything so far has been online. I've been sitting behind a computer screen. Now for the next month I'm going to be traveling to Korea, to Russia, possibly South America, and hitting these markets and actually meeting people in meetup groups, etc. So it's a different nature of marketing.
Meeting as in the investors or particular groups like banks, or what's going on in Korea, Russia?
Conferences, blockchain conferences, those type of things where you meet investors, you meet blockchain enthusiasts, advisors, basically people that can take your vision forward. We've been looking for a company that can help us create a credit card that our traders can connect to their Spectre accounts and actually spend money on their accounts on the street, right? So you have companies like 10x that are working on solutions like that, Centra in the US. So we're going to Asia to meet some of these because we're very interested in adding that. So also strategic alliances, you can't kind of do them over over Skype or the computer. You need to go out and meet them.
Right. Now, have you been doing that over the past couple of weeks? It seems like this is, of course there's been meetings, but now this is coming up more, or was this been going on?
No, so these things, there's always a gestation period, there's incubation period. We reached out a few weeks ago. We have 2 advisors in Singapore that are hooking us up with one of the companies I mentioned. So we're very excited to potentially meet them when we're out there on our Asia roadshow. And so yeah, these things take time. They take time. A lot of these ICO teams are very busy themselves. They've raised 20, 30 million, and they're trying to build out their visions. The last thing they need is some small ICO coming to them and say, hey, can we do something? But at the same time, it's very important that look, we have a rising community. It's 4,000 plus, and a lot of these are going to be traders on Spectre, and a lot of them have been feedbacking to us saying that, hey, can you add a credit card solution? Can you consider a potential alliance with this company? And so we have to make good on that.
Right. So there's a lot going on over the next couple of weeks and next couple of months. Have your concerns changed since the last video? Are there any new concerns maybe for people who are kind of interested in the project?
Yeah, not for the project. I mean, I would say, look, we're on track for our funding goals, which is very important. We're very excited about getting this platform live, right? I want to see traders in it. I want to really bring this to the community because I think the crypto community is going to love this, actually. The type of contracts we're bringing there, they've never been on any platform before, so I'm very excited about that. There are no concerns about the project. We're monitoring a lot of variables, both systemic and non-systemic, in the market. My concerns are more about the ICO space. It's a beautiful space for management teams to gain the required resources to bring ideas that potentially can change the world, right? I mean, really, that is what it is. And I'm seeing a lot of abuse at this moment. A lot of abuse. The best teams that have the best marketing budgets and the best marketeers tend to be raising a lot of the money. But if the product idea is not there, if the use case for the blockchain is not there, you're not going to get a sustainable form of funding here. People are just going to... You don't want this to become something that 3 years down the line, people are like, oh, it's another ICO, I'm not putting any money. People, the average value of the raise has already started to come down. 3 months ago, our pre-sale would have been 15, 16, 20, 18 million, right? We've received a lot of hype with this project. So you can just see that already the exhaustion has set in very quickly. So I'm concerned about the way these ICOs are structured by management teams. I would implore that a bit more thought is put into it for the sake of the investors. And so that's my biggest concern, is that this is such a beautiful funding mechanism, and I can already see the animals out of the cage, right? I can see some ideas, you know, one went live yesterday, their valuation, they're looking to raise something like 500 million plus. Come on, man, 500 million, like what? No product, right? No product. And they're only giving, I think, 45% of their tokens, so the valuation is going to be like $1 billion. This is not good for the community. Even if you can trick the community into investing that money, they're going to lose it. They're going to lose that money, and you're going to kill the ICO sector. And I really hope that doesn't happen, which is why I'm so bullish about, you know, YouTubers taking the responsibility to actually question the management teams, push them against the wall, get them on AMAs, and really ask, why are you raising this money? You know, why are you, what exactly is the use case? What problem are you solving? I don't see enough of these questions being asked.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with ICOs over the past couple of weeks has been the dumps with just the bonuses. 20% bonus, that's fine, but the 100% bonus, that's just silly. That's just silly. Of course you're going to abuse it. And then if there's no caps, because at least some of these companies are like, even if it's crazy, there's a cap that you're not going to have the millionaire whale who's just like, oh, okay, well, time to eat everybody up. But then the ones who don't have caps, boom, gone. See ya.
So true, right? I mean, it's a 100% bonus. Like, how does that even work? Like, so you're basically giving the person their entire investment back, right? And other people have to pay for it, basically. It's really, really bad. It's myopic. You know, it's like, what's the point of raising money when you start when you're already down 40% as a company and you have to work so hard to get back up to create all that value? So yeah, I agree with you. It'll change, and the problem is it'll change for the wrong reasons, because what will happen is there will be an incident. Without mentioning names, I can already probably see which company is going to be the one to break the camel's back, be that straw. You know, it's the ones that have raised perverse amounts of money. And if there's any incident like this, it's going to be like the DAO hack, right? The DAO hack changed the face of security and how security is perceived in the crypto community thereafter. And I think this is going to be very similar with this. One or two companies, high-profile failures. You know, the management team just leaves one day or steals money, and there goes the bubble, the ICO bubble pop. There's going to be a reset, and the average raise will be maybe $1 million, $2 million tops.
But there still will be ICOs, of course, not hundreds and hundreds of these ICOs. And maybe if blockchain, like if it is here to stay and that's the new format, then there will be a correction after. Or, you know, some companies will find a way past all that. So right now, though, it's a little spooky. We're not sure what's going on. But, hey, at least the ICO for Spectre is going on right now. So whatever happens, once the capital's raised, you know, it's all about making sure the platform actually works at that point and just handling the technical and security aspect of it. So true. So I like it. I think we've discussed a fair amount of things here. With just one last thing. What do you think about 2018 ICOs? Now, of course, Spectre will be done, but let's say the abuse does continue. Now, it'll go down, but what movement do you think would be needed to gain back the confidence? Because right now it's just investors throwing money everywhere, left and right.
Exactly, you're 100% right. So what you have is utter decentralization now, and it's a Wild West scenario. And there's no filtration. There's no filtration, right? If you look at the venture capital industry, there's over-filtration. You have a bunch of old people, with all due respect, not to sound ageist, controlling billions in capital, and they're the gatekeepers of capital. And to get there, it's become a boys' club. It's very difficult to actually get to them with ideas which are just concepts and all that, right? So you need to get a lot of traction, you need to prove yourself, and that's good. That actually keeps the quality entrepreneurship high. And with the ICO space, it makes VCs look completely useless, right? Because ultimately, if a VC comes to you and makes you run around hoops for 3 million of capital, which is what they do, and you have to give them 30% of your company. With the ICO space, you can raise 30 million, give no percent of your company. You're just disrupting them. I think in 2018, you're right. So I think this abuse will continue. I think the abuse is actually worsening in the last few weeks. I've not seen any improvement. And so what will happen is that these people will trick the markets. They'll trick the markets because they have big marketing machines and they have big hullabaloo. And you will then start to see Q2 of next year, I think, so January, February, March, and then March, April, May, you'll start to see a lot of the truth setting in. You'll start to see people saying, okay, all these management teams are not delivering on their milestones. They're all delayed. They're all doing follow-up ICOs, so there's something wrong. I'm just not seeing the money. I'm not seeing the money. I'm not seeing the dividend.
Follow-up ICOs?
Yeah, there are some shocking revelations. There's one company that has that plans to do an ICO and then within a year do another ICO. Can you believe that? It's as part of their roadmap, right? So you can see it's a money grab.
Wow.
So yeah, it's shocking. So this will continue. And I think when ultimately reality will set in because investors are like, okay, this is becoming a joke. I'm not actually seeing anything.
Right.
Right. But having said that, now this is an interesting thing: is I don't think the ICO market will ever be dead, and here's why. As long as you still have some unicorns, as long as you have, I think OMG has done really well, and I think there are other examples of good ICOs, good performing ICOs. As long as they exist, there will always be that hope in the community that, okay, this management team actually seems serious, right? No special discounts, etc. Maybe they could be that, right? Take Augur, for example. Augur is valued at 200 million. It's way up from their actual ICO price. And so people will look at us as another prediction market platform with its own USPs over Augur and say, okay, that is potentially where this team should be looking at. So in answer to your question, I think there will be more ICOs next year, much more lower quality ones. This is a problem that's going to manifest itself, and people are going to wake up to a very rude awakening that, okay, a lot of these ICOs just didn't deliver. However, there'll always be these 1 or 2 or 3 ICOs that you're like, wow, okay, if they can do it, we can do it. So I think the average funding ticket will drop a lot next year. I think a big ICO will be 5 million, maybe 10. I don't think we're going to see these 100 to 200 million ICOs anymore for a few years. I know it's a big prediction, but I don't think we're going to see it, to be honest. I think we have passed that raise bubble.
It's an interesting future. I mean, tomorrow you might see crazy results with Bitcoin or Ethereum or who knows, because it's like, honestly, you go to sleep, you wake up, and you're just shocked. You're stunned. You look at even CoinMarketCap.
Yep.
You honestly, like, for example, with me in my school, just going to classes and not keeping up with certain things that's been going on. And this is like, I want to get into it, so of course I have to get back and, start reading through the forums and going through it. But the average person who's got work, who's got kids, who's got this, they have no clue. And they have not even a chance to understand like 1% of what's going on, because it's happening so fast that the people inside of it, they're like, we don't know. There's battles between miners and between companies, and there's a new Bitcoin, there's hard forks all over the place, and then you got like 100 ICOs. It's happening way too fast, but
it's crazy. It's crazy. I know exactly what you mean, and especially when you say you go to class and then you come home and it's like 2 different worlds. You almost feel, you look at the people around you like, well, they don't know what they're missing.
Of course.
It's like this completely different dimension that you're part of. I know what you mean. It's very exciting though. It's like once it sucks you in, you look at the world quite differently. So yeah, no, I consider myself very lucky to be part of it. I'm sure as do you.
I honestly think of it as like the oil or the railroad businesses of, the 1880s, or I don't know, telegraph or something like that. More so telephones and the new age stuff of the 19th century. But this is definitely going to be something that I think my kids are our kids will be learning in school possibly, or you know, we'll have to teach them that, hey, this is what's going on, because it's going to be a big part of our lives. It's crazy.
And you know what I think the next bubble is going to be?
What's that?
People always think, what's the next bubble? I think, yeah, cryptocurrency is a bubble that's going to play out. You know, there's going to be a lot of systemic change coming from that. But I actually believe in 3 years from now, 3 to 4 years, maybe a bit earlier, we're going to get a huge virtual reality bubble.
Ah.
Very similar to what you see here. You know, projects around the world, VR based, they may even use the blockchain to raise money, but in a big way. Because the installed base of all these devices, Oculus and all of those renditions, is growing, and it's going to become a mainstay, right? Like we used to have in the late 80s, early 90s, your Nintendo. Now you're going to have one of these devices, and they're going to become cheap, very cheap and very high quality, so it's going to get the young kids involved as well. And I think that's going to be a huge bubble. I think everyone is looking at ICOs in this space. That's fine, but bubbles come and go, and I have a feeling that could be massive.
I mean, there's already companies that are working with VR and cryptocurrencies, so it's crazy what's going to happen next year. It's crazy what's happening right now. Yesterday, last week, oh my goodness. Well,
yeah.
We've got a day and 14 hours. I'm looking at your screen, so the pre-ICO going into ICO phase. It's going to get exciting. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be a surprise, like, what was it? Prism, that project that you were talking about that had 6 million and 21 million only, or 22. Pillar.
6 million, I think. ICO, pre-ICO, and then they just hit the lights out. 21 million, something about in the main one. Amazing.
Crazy.
We're very happy. We just hit our internal target, you know, which is 7 to 10. We're very happy with that, very thankful, and it's looking okay the way it's going. So we're cool with that.
5.7, not too far away from 7. You still got plenty of time. All right. Well, speaking of time, thank you for your time. And my name is Mike Kubera. If you guys would like for more details, definitely do check out the links in the description below.